Hi, and welcome to Geno's Picks. Do you see that smile, that swagger? Because Daddy was 3-1 last week. It only took 6 weeks for a winning week, all the way up to a staggering 9-15 for 38%. But if you follow gambling like we do, you know that we're an Odell Beckham Jr. touchdown, a Derek Anderson meltdown, and a Bears screw up away from a perfect 8-0 2 weeks. That's how ridiculous gambling is. So why do we do it? Because it's fantastic. You can't wait to get to these picks. My first pick, the Ravens and Jets are a pick 'em at MetLife Stadium. Really? Just a pick 'em? I think you know who Daddy's going to pick. Look, to no one's surprise, New York Jets head coach Todd Bowles finally pulled struggling quarterback Ryan Fitzpatrick Monday night after yet another abysmal performance where he threw his 11th interception of the season in that 28-3 blowout in the Arizona desert. But despite all that, in the postgame conference, he's like, he's still my starter. Yeah, and then he went home and he digested a few numbers that made him want to puke. Basically, the numbers are he's paying $9 million this year to a guy who leads the NFL with nearly a dozen picks. And here's where it gets worse. Of those 11 INTs, 10 have come in the second half and 4 have come in the red zone. And just like that, he gave it a thought. And suddenly, there were 2 debates going on this week in which there were no winner, but you had to choose between an entitled white millionaire and a little bitch whose only qualification is they were familiar with the job years earlier. But here's the thing about Geno Smith. Unlike Hillary, you won't be able to ignore all the screwing up he does while he's in there. Let me point something out about this team. Geno Smith is the 4th worst quarterback on the roster, which is why the last time he started a game at MetLife Stadium was 2014, when he was benched after a 3-14 start. You want to know the last time Joe Flacco started a game there? Last week, when his stupid Ravens couldn't cover our only loss. That's not important, though, because we're taking the Ravens, and they're probably going to be laying 1 or 2 by kickoff. Hey, speaking of terrible quarterbacks, that's a segue, Fernandez. The Buccaneers are giving 2 to the Niners in San Francisco. What don't you guys get about Colin Kaepernick other than he's in nearly the exact same situation as the aforementioned Geno Smith, winning a job because of how bad the starter before him was and nothing that he did. Without wasting 20 minutes gloating about how right we were about him, I will point out one thing that you may not have noticed last week, that in his abysmal 13 of 29 for 187-yard performance, his worst pass of the game was actually the 53-yard touchdown pass where Torrey Smith was wide open, yet he nearly missed him after the broken play. Please, if you take that away, you know what he was? 12 of 28 for 154 yards against the Buffalo Bills defense that was playing prevent for about half an hour at the end of the game. How do you think he's going to do against the Buccaneers defense coming off 13 days rest? Exactly. The only way Smith or any other receiver gets that much separation is if the Buccaneers secondary misses the flight out of Tampa. Stop it. Kaepernick may be on one knee during the anthem, but the fans will be saluting him with one finger by the end of this game. Take the Bucs, lay the deuce. My next pick, I did a little research on this. My next pick, you're going to be so proud of me. This pick coming up, it's going to be great. Hey, when are we running? What? The Steelers are getting a touchdown from the Patriots at Heinz Field. Haven't even had a drink yet. Yeah, I get it. The Steelers laid a big goose egg, well, a big stinky goose egg, against the Dolphins last week, but they were a distracted team led by tentative quarterback Ben Roethlisberger, who played the game on a torn ligament. He might be out for 2 months now. And while they are now starting Landry Jones instead, I get it, that's a step back. But you know they still have? You got a minute? Le'Veon Bell, Antonio Brown, Sammy Coates, Marcus Wheaton, D'Angelo Williams, and here's one other thing to ponder. Did you know in games following their last 3 losses, regular season, because I could include their opening win where they killed the Redskins, the Steelers have outscored their opponents in those 3 games 116-38, averaging 27 point margin of victory. Now, am I saying the Steelers are going to win this game against Tom Brady, who's averaging 390 passing yards again since he's back? No. But I am saying if you think the Steelers are going to lose by a touchdown, you should be working for the TSA because you're profiling one dangerous-looking dude while a harmless white guy waltzes in with about a dozen obvious weapons. I love that picture. Take the Steelers and the TD you're getting. Which brings me to my Double Your Money Monday Night better, as I like to call it, 1-game win streak. The Broncos are giving 7.5 to the Texans in Denver. Wow, let me point something out that you probably know. Brock Osweiler is not having a good year. In fact, he's having a pretty terrible one because while his Texans are 4-2, if you realize that the Chiefs in week 2 were handed a win by the Chargers in week 1, and you may want to do that going forward, whoever played the Chargers the week before, treat it like they lost even though they won. None of the teams they've beaten this year have a winning record. KC with an asterisk, Chicago, Tennessee, and the Colts, please. Now let's talk about those 2 losses. Absolute blowouts against Minnesota, who beat them like 37-13, and New England, the Thursday night game. Were we on that, Joe? You're goddamn right we were. 27-0. They've been outscored 58-13. You know why? Because those are 2 of the best defenses in football. They're not the best defense in football because that would be Denver, and that's the defense Brock Osweiler is facing now. You know, the defense that happens to be the exact same team that Brock Osweiler walked out on in the middle of training camp, well, a little bit before. How do you think the Denver Broncos feel about him? Well, tell you what, if you're not sure, next time you're with your ex-wife, call her cell phone and then read the name that pops up on the screen. Exactly. And they're not even going to be that nice to him. Take the Broncos and gladly lay those points. Those are Geno's picks.